Hey YouTube, this is Nashtaters. Welcome back to another episode of War of the Visions. Today we're going to be doing the last part of the deep dive into vision cards. We're going to go over some of the UR cards, and as you can see, I have Orlando representing himself because it is Final Fantasy Tactics Week. So let's get into the topic at hand of UR vision cards. Currently on the global server, there are 21 UR cards. So way too many cards for me to cover in this video. So what I'm going to do is stick to my original plan, and I'm only going to talk about a card that I feel like best represent something specific you want to go for. And that is either going to be attack, that's going to be magic, maybe slash, evasion, etc, etc. So let's go for it right now. Before we go into fine details of individual cards though, let's talk about some stuff that warrants discussing. First and foremost, in order to maximize one UR card, it will take you 275 shards to do so. It will also require you to use 18 rainbow spheres. That is a lot to ask for. So, what does that mean? It means that when you decide that you want to build a UR card and you want to take it all the way, just be prepared to be investing for the long haul. So therefore, you must be really careful in terms of selecting UR cards to build, just like you should be very careful in terms of building your UR units. Another important thing to think about is that there are many cards in this game that are of UR quality and that are only there for a limited time. For example, the Scion card was a card that was released during the first run of Final Fantasy Tactics. And this card, however, has not made a return into Japanese server, and honestly, I don't foresee it doing a return in the future for global server as well. Even though it's considered one of the best cards in the game in terms of boosting agility for your party, maximizing it is going to take quite an investment. And for the average player, that's not going to happen. So you may have to actually make a decision to perhaps ignore all the units for that banner because they tend to return, but perhaps you really want to buckle down on trying to get that card as high as possible. But keep in mind, 275 shards is quite a large number to go for, and most likely the game will not allow you to go beyond Awakening Star 2 until you start summoning heavily on the banner in hopes of getting duplicate copies. And even then, you're going to need a lot of duplicate copies to go beyond the Awakening 2 stars. The first card is going to be Trousseau. I talk about this card quite a bit. It increases magic attack up for party abilities, and its max stats is going to be 35 for magic attack up, 237 for HP, 28 for attack, and a whopping 190 for your magic attack power. This is perhaps one of the best cards in the entire game for magic boosters. Roaring Thunderclap Ramu is going to be the other card for really good at boosting magic, and also really good at helping out your healers. So here's how this is going to work. There's not going to be many situations where you're going to be using one unit. And even in multiplayer, where you're actually only bringing your one unit, it's still a great idea to ideally have all 4 party members use different vision cards to supplement the composition at hand. Now, personally, I will always stack Ramu with Trousseau if you're lucky enough to own both. And for those of you who want to know the difference between what those words mean, I've covered that in the first 3 parts of the deep dive into vision cards. So I highly suggest going back to watch those 3 parts if you haven't done so. But to make a quick short summary, magic power up, in this case the capital MAG, is going to really help boost your healers, and the magic attack up is going to really help boosting your magic attackers. But of course there are other elements to those things which I will not go over hard detail in this specific video. But just understand, it's always a good idea to stack both the magic attack power up and magic up in general. Ramu will give you 264 HP, 80 in attack power, and 133 in magic up. So overall, really solid stats. Echoing Screams is pretty much the counterpart to attackers as it is for Trousseau. This one specifically though increases slash attack up, which pretty much is the most common attack form in this game. At its max, it's going to increase 346 HP, 169 attack power, and only 10 magical attack power. So overall, it's a really good card, and at its max, it will increase slash attack up by 35, which is a lot. Freezer Shiva is a very good card if you're thinking about evasion. At max, it increases evasion by 20, 330 in HP, 18 attack, and 170 in magical power. This card is very flexible because you can actually equip it to one of your magic attackers for the 170 magical attack power boost, and on top of it, it's going to give you your entire party evasion, which you can't really go wrong with that. How? Ooh, oh, Ferocious Blaze, Ifrit. It's a very powerful card. As you can see, I'm on Dr. Taro's account, which is my fiance's account. So thank you, babe, for allowing us to use your account to highlight some of the cards here. First off, this card is going to give you a solid boost of 50% on attack power. Pretty much one of the best cards in the entire game for boosting raw stats for attack power. It also gives you 323 HP, 133 in attack power, and only 54 for magic. Very, very good card. And on top of it, it also boosts fire attack. So it's going to be very good for units perhaps like Delita that's going to be coming to us very soon. She is also blessed with Golem, Rock Cliff Titan. Now, he lives up to his name. He's a big hard rock. So he's going to be very hard to kill. And there's a reason for it, because he boosts HP up by a solid 25% at max, and it gives you another whopping 500 HP at max level, but on the attack and magic it's pretty low. It only gives 60 and 36 respectively. One of the most popular forms of attack in this game is going to be missile attack. Frederica and Lucia and even Ramu. Now, Frederica's Dream is the card perhaps for some missile attackers. After all, you can dream about it. Okay, bad joke, but let's get serious. Missile attack up is going to give you 35 at max, 287 HP, 162 in attack, and only 39 in magic. Unfortunately, I do not own Frederica or Lucia on my main account. So please, Gumi and Square Enix, during your 100 free pulls, give me one of them! I love you. Dashing over a snowy field. This is such a cool concept of a name. I loved snow when I was a kid. Hate it as an adult. But again, let's get more serious. This increases Pierce attack up by a whopping 35. And this card is going to be something you really need to think about in the future, because when Kane finally arrives, he's going to be stabbing your heart and along with any other person getting in the way. Now for HP, it boosts by 261, 137 for attack, and magic of 80. It also boosts your agi by only 5%. So the trend as it goes is that the agility actually goes lower and lower in terms of rarity. The SR saw a 12% increase, MR saw a 10% increase, and this card only see a 5% increase. Very interesting indeed. There are going to be many cards in this game that are going to be doing something very specific. For example, Siren was one of the first cards given to us for free during the global launch, and many people looked down upon this card thinking, that's a really bad card. Well, at the time we didn't have many water units, but now that we do have access to many water units, and in the future we're going to have a lot more, this card is going to be more and more powerful. And the water attack up is going to be very good for pretty much, obviously, water attackers. And the fact that there are going to be perhaps encounters that's going to require you to bring a full team of one specific element. Therefore, this card is going to be very good for your entire team if those situations warrant it. Other things to really think about are cards like Diablos, where it decides to concentrate heavily on increasing something very specific in both the bestow effect and the party ability. And bear in mind, of course, they both stack together. So in the future, we're probably going to be expecting a lot more cards that's going to do something like this, very specific. So very interesting indeed. In my last video for MR Vision cards, some people asked me, why didn't you cover certain cards? Because they're really good and perhaps better than the ones you covered. Well, I had a plan in mind, and that was because the very first time I was introduced to the unit Salir, she is of MR quality, and I kind of shut her down quickly. And man, did I make that mistake. And so I decided to kind of incorporate that same concept. An MR unit pretty much hidden as a UR unit. And there's two cards that I really want to cover in this video. And that is Snow White Guard. Now many people think that Whisper is more catered towards Wailed because of the multiple sets of things you need in order for her to target something specific, whether it be slash attack resistance, missile attack resistance, etc. But this card specifically uses slash attack resistance and missile attack resistance with a penalty of 15% max HP. Now for your average tank, that's going to take a heavy hit because they have large HP pools. But for Whisper, her HP isn't very high, so that percentage wouldn't be a humongous loss compared to someone with a much higher HP pool. And I feel like Whisper is such a good unit overall, you don't need all the different sets when you do decide to build her, because in the future you're going to have access to all of those different sets and eventually you're going to get them all. Personally, I feel like she's really good for targeting slash attacks, missile attacks, or just a tank in general. So I feel like this is one of those cards that's considered a really powerful effect card that's perhaps hidden as an UR rarity card. Following that same theme, Deceptive Vows is what I wanted to say for this video. MR quality card, but in my opinion can rival that of the UR card. While the evasion only boosts up by 10, I believe, the slash attack upper bestowed in addition to the evasion is a really solid synergistic effect. Cards like this are really good for units like Shadowlings, Kitone, and even Venera, especially if you're lacking some of the UR cards and or that you simply cannot max those cards. Personally, if you max this card, you're not going to go wrong because it's going to fit very nicely on your evasion team. For my final thought on vision cards, I had a lot of fun making this series, and I really enjoy the idea of deep diving. Now, I feel like Equipment Esper's vision cards are going to be in fact the trifecta of the future. And one important thing to keep in mind, now that we have completely dissected how UR vision cards work in terms of numbers and whatnot, one must realize that people who spend money on this game, first off, we all should thank them. Second off, they deserve everything they get because they're spending money, because they want to advance in a way that perhaps free-to-play players don't want to advance, or perhaps choose not to advance. Whatever the reason is, if you decide to pay, you should get some sort of reward or product, because after all, this is pretty much a business at hand first and foremost. And for us players, it is actually quite fun for us to enjoy the game for free, and I don't mind the gap that they created for it. Free-to-play players versus pay-to-win players, because it's justifiable. I personally understand when I play on my free-to-play account, I will never climb high enough in arena. I will never expect to defeat many players in PvP, but I know that I can defeat PvE content quite well. And I still enjoy talking, chatting, and playing with players from all sorts of backgrounds, because that's what games do. They bring us all together as a community. UR vision cards should be treated much like UR units. You need to be very selective, and some of the UR cards are going to be clearly catered to whales because of the fact that they're limited and or they're very hard to obtain unless you spend a buttload of money. Overall, I think that most players should start looking at the lower rarity cards to really boost their stats. But all in all, I love the fact that vision cards exist. I love the fact that this game is called War of the Visions, and I love the fact that this game is perhaps one of the best games on this entire planet. That's all the time I have for this video. I want to thank y'all for the support. I want to thank y'all for watching my videos. Time is your most valuable resource, so please use it wisely. And as always, take care of yourself and all your loved ones. Nashtaters and his family out. Peace.